Forge FC is ready for their upcoming match.
Simply stunning stuff! And finally, their goal! My word, what a rocket!
Now, let's get you up to date with Anthony Urciuoli and Match Day Preview on the Forge Audio Network.
Hello, Forge fans. It's the Forge Audio Network. I'm Anthony Urciuoli. It is the Match Day Preview, and this next match could not come soon enough. Forge FC looking to erase a disappointing result at home last weekend against Pacific, where they lost 1-0. But listen, moving on to the next, a big one. Friday on the road in Winnipeg against Valour FC, 8 o'clock kickoff Eastern time, another stiff test for Forge. Now you look back at their schedule. York. Go even before that. They had a Canadian Championship match in Montreal. They've had to play York, Cavalry, Pacific, now Valour. And Valour is a very tough out, as to spoil or to borrow, I should say, a baseball term. Because Valour, they're typically tough at home. It's a very tough stadium to play in. And B, they just don't give you much. Taking a look at the overall table, heading into this week's matchup, Forge FC in third place, dropping out of first. They are, though, only 2 points out of first place, so still very tight at the top of the table. Forge in third, 16 points on the season, 4 wins, 4 draws, 2 losses, 11 goals for, 9 against. Valour, fifth place, 9 games played, just 1 win, but a lot of draws in there. 6 of them. Pair of losses. They've scored 8, given up 9, and they have 9 points on the season. So you look at that, Forge with 16, Valour with 9. You go, okay, well, should be a pretty winnable game. Valour is just, Valour's tricky, and they've been like this for a number of years now, where sometimes their place on the table is deceptive because they play in a lot of really tight games, and they're just very difficult to play against. Good news for Forge, they're on the road. It's not often you say that, but this season, the road has been very kind to Forge FC. 4 matches away from home, 3 wins, 1 draw. They've scored 4 goals in those 4 matches, just 1 goal against in 4 matches on the road for a total of 10 points. Valour at home this year, no wins, 4 draws in 4 matches. 3-4, 3 against for 4 points. And when you look at the numbers, goals scored per match, Forge, it's been a struggle this year. Despite having some very dominant performances, playing on the front foot, dominating possession for the most part, still just 5th in the league in goals scored, goals per match for Forge FC. They're at 1.10 on the year. Valour, 0.89. Goals conceded per match, number 1 in the league, Forge FC, 0.90. Valour is the second best defensive club in the league. They're giving up exactly 1 goal per match. So, that kind of tells the story right there. 2 teams, very difficult to score on, and both clubs have struggled in their own way to score. Forge, not what we expected to see this year. Valour, it's been kind of the Valour way. They're not a team that's going to score a ton of goals, but they're not going to give up a lot, and they're going to be very dangerous on the counter. They always have 1 or 2 guys that can really burn you, and this season is no different. Shots on target per match this season. Now, this is the big one. So, Forge FC, they're 4th in the league in shots on target per match. They're at 4 shots on target per match. Valour, 2.8. Goal conversion rate, Forge FC, they're at around 12%. That's 5th in the league. Valour, 6th. They're at 10%. Ball possession. Number 1 in the CPL is Forge FC. Exactly what you'd expect. I don't have the historical data in front of me, but I'm willing to bet that since the inception of this league, 4+ years ago now, I would say that Forge has easily been the top team consecutively in terms of possession. And just, overall control of the match. They're first. They're just over 56%. Valour, though, kind of surprising. Valour's second in the league. They're 54. They're only 2 percentage points below Forge FC. And historically, these two clubs head-to-head, pretty even. Forge 8 wins, Valour 7 wins, and they've played to a draw. But at the heart of Forge FC's, let's call them inconsistencies, is just a lack of scoring and not capitalizing on big opportunities when they are presented. Like I said, possession's always going to be there. And just high danger scoring chances, high danger opportunities. Forge FC is always going to be at the top of that stat category. And just it has not translated in goals this season. But you get the feeling, and I said this after the last match, if you listen to the live match in review, by the way, in case you didn't know, that's our thing now. As soon as you hear that final whistle, head over to the Forge FC YouTube channel, and we go live. Immediate, instant reaction after the final whistle. It's the best way to deliver a post game, in my opinion. And yeah, it's available after every single match. It'll be no different on Friday after this Valour match. But after the match against Pacific, disappointing result. Pacific getting scoring after some sloppy play from Forge, a miscue on the back end, and a late goal, not dissimilar to the York match, the previous home match for Forge FC, where they gave up a late winner. It's been an unfortunate trend lately, but again, when you look at the talent, guys that know how to score, guys that have, I mean, we're talking prolific goal scorers in this league, several of them playing on as part of this Forge FC roster. It just hasn't gone in. I mean, it's sometimes the way it goes. You don't expect it to happen for this long, for this kind of stretch, but you get the feeling they need one or two. They need to open the floodgates, and then they're just going to start coming. And they kind of have to just hit their stride and go on a roll. And it's a team that has a lot of faith. By the way, even if you're a fan, I mean, you've seen this. You've seen this club for so long. You've seen this core. You've seen the talent on this roster. You've seen this coaching staff. You know what they're capable of. These aren't guys that just forgot how to execute. It lives within them. They just got to find it. And once they do, you get that feeling that the dominoes are going to start rolling. But it's a dangerous spot for Forge FC on the road against a club that doesn't give up a lot as it is. So it's going to be one of those matches. One of those matches where you may need to grind away to get those 3 points. But Forge has done that all year on the road. They've been as good as anyone, probably better than anyone on the road. I believe they're tied with Pacific in terms of their away record. So outside of Pacific, it's been Forge on the road taking care of business. Now for a deeper look at Valour FC out in Winnipeg, there is no better source to go to than Ed Tait. Been on the program before. He's the senior writer, reporter covering Valour FC and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And by the way, a proud member of the Canadian Football Hall of Fame as a journalist. So a pretty hefty resume there. And Ed joins us right now. All right. So Ed, welcome back. It's been, I guess, almost a year or so since it was last season that we spoke. You know, it seems to be with Valour, it just seems to be the way it goes, where it doesn't matter where they are on the table, what form they're in. It's always a tough matchup. I mean, they play hard. They don't give up much. Is this version, this season that we're seeing with Valour, is it similar to the squads we've seen in previous seasons?
Yeah, and I think you're right, Anthony. I think that might be frustrating for the fan base because we've seen so much positive signs, and then they lost Saturday in Halifax 2-0, and it was not a good performance at all. The team didn't train today. I'm assuming that as the days go forward here, leading up to Friday's match, that we're going to get a clear picture of things. But Philip DeSantos was not very happy after that one. it's a funny team because you guys saw in Hamilton a few weeks ago that 3-2 win by Forge was a really highly entertaining game, and it was actually one of the better games Valour's played this year. But they have trouble finishing, and then when they do have trouble finishing, you just make one mistake in your own end, and you're chasing the game, and that's certainly what happened on Saturday against Halifax.
Is it the same, looking at the numbers even, Valour, they don't appear to be giving up much. And I haven't seen a ton of Valour play this season, but I'm just going by the numbers. And it's a club that maintains its shape, doesn't give up much, very difficult to break down and score on. Is the issue that they're having difficulty just finding offense?
It's been a weird year for that, Anthony. So they've had a revolving door at the center back position with injuries and guys not available and having to sign people to come in. And it's been sort of a Band-Aid solution, but they've still defended really well. And then they get to Halifax. I hate to keep coming back, but that's the most recent game. And they really had trouble with the smaller pitch and the grass field. They're used to the turf here in Winnipeg and playing in places like Tim Hortons, where you've got more space and they could take advantage of their speed. But Saturday's loss was the first time that I can see that their shape kind of fell apart a little bit. And then Philip DeSantos, the GM and coach, was very frustrated with the effort level. So there were some shots fired across the bow, so to speak, by the manager. And we'll see what happens this week because it's going to be a different looking squad, I think, Friday night against Forge, because there's been a couple of things too. Pacific Nyongabert, who's been so impressive at the winger spot's been called up to the Burundian national team, so he won't be available. And their captain, Diego Gutierrez, picked up another yellow card on Saturday in Halifax, so he has to sit this one out. So as if things aren't enough of a challenge already through the first part of the season for Valour, they're going to have a few more coming up here.
I had my 3 keys to the match planned, and Nyongabert factored in, but you just you created more work for me, but you gave me accurate information, so that's good to have. So then talk about the fan base. We know people in Hamilton, well aware. I won't get into it too much because the fans won't like it, but we're aware of the sports rivalry between the two cities on the football field. But what has the appetite been for Valour and for the sport in Winnipeg, and how contingent is it on wins and losses?
It's a great question, and I wish I had the magic answer for you, Anthony. This team started off so well. They had 10,000 fans for their first ever game, and there was a real buzz about it. And then the team has not made the playoffs in its existence since 2019. A couple of finishes just outside the line, and they're just inside the line now with the expanded playoff format. But I'm not sure. I'm hoping that wins could make a difference, and if this team could string together a few more, then maybe the building becomes more packed. It's a crowded sports market in Winnipeg. We've got a new CEBL team, the Winnipeg Sea Bears. It's playing its first season. There's junior hockey. There's AHL hockey. There's the Jets. There's the Bombers. There's the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. There's just an awful lot going on. And then in the summer, we have such brutal winters here. People like to have their nights to do stuff and their weekends to go to the cabin. And I'm not making a lot of excuses. That's just been the landscape for forever. And now it's more crowded. So I think there is a very, very dedicated fan base here, and they're very loyal, win or lose. And they've been here. It's the matter of attracting those other fans, the casual fans, and convincing them to at least give it a try once, and maybe you can hook them on coming back a few more times.
Is there a lot of crossover from the Bombers to Valour? Do you notice that there's almost 2 separate fan bases? Despite, they do share a stadium, but a lot of times, especially with football fans, soccer fans, you get 2 very different kind of demographics.
I know that we do have fans that are season ticket holders in both. I'm not sure of the number, Anthony, but there are some. I think it is 2 separate fan bases. The Bombers have been around since 1930, so that maybe it's a more traditional fan base, and sometimes that interest gets passed down from generation to generation. And that's what happens when you're trying to start something afresh, right? You've got to get those fans hooked on it first, and then maybe the kids start coming, and then their kids start coming down the road. But it's been a tough road right now to get more fans in. I'm not sure of the exact average, but I would say the team is probably averaging around 3,000 fans, and obviously you'd like to see it more, but maybe you're right. Maybe some wins would help to change that number.
Yeah, a playoff appearance perhaps,
Big
and
time.
they are on the cusp right now. Ed, fantastic as always. Thank you so much.
Right on.
And it's another kind of chapter in this Hamilton Winnipeg sports rivalry. So we look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Anthony. Appreciate it.
It's not often we have a Hall of Famer on the program, but Ed Tait, informative and just great as usual. All right. 3 keys. Speaking of great. 3 keys for Forge FC as they attempt to secure 3 points on the road, something they've done quite often, and an opportunity on Friday in Winnipeg. Key number 1 for Forge. Stay the course. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here. The results haven't been there. We understand that. But just 2 points at a top spot. It's been frustrating. Players are frustrated. Fans are frustrated. But there's, again, the recipe for success is there. It's the groundwork has been laid. Maybe a few tweaks are required, but the overall model it stays the same. Forge leading the league in possession. They're still getting a ton of dangerous scoring opportunities. They're just not scoring at the moment, but there's no need to panic. Lean on your identity, win or lose. Stay the course is key number 1 for Forge. Key number 2 for Forge FC. Target practice. Speaking of tweaks, forget not scoring despite their opportunities. They're not even hitting the target enough right now. Far too many times this season. All right, we've seen a dangerous attack. We've seen the build. We've seen an approach where a shot gets blocked, shot misses the target. There's a turnover. There's not enough quality in that final touch for Forge FC right now. The best way to combat that, because sometimes you get in your head a little too much, you simplify things. Start hitting the target. At the very least, worst case scenario, you're forcing the opposing keeper to make a save. Do not make it easy on them. Make that keeper sweat. Make him believe he's going to have to make a save every time you're bearing down on him. That's key number 2. Target practice. If you're going to have all these high danger opportunities, at the very least, you have to force the keeper to make a save. Key number 3 for Forge FC. Control the flanks. Forge, catch a bit of a break. As you heard during that discussion with Ed Tait, it's a good thing he told me, by the way, because if I'm being honest, I didn't actually know that Pacifique Niangabert was not going to be in the lineup for Valour because he's going to be on international duty. Good news for Forge, because he creates more high danger scoring chances than any other player on Valour. The second most dangerous player on Valour is the youngster, Matteo De Brienne, on the left side of that attack. He creates more than any other player on Valour. If you look at his heat map, the young player, he does most of his damage down that left side of the flank. So it'll be up to the Forge fullbacks, the left fullback specific, the right fullback. I got to reverse it now, right? Because of Forge's formation. So the right side fullback, typically Rama, right side midfielder, typically Sissoko. 2 guys, by the way. If I'm going up against Ford, those are the last 2 players I want to see. But the Brand, if he plays, those are the 2 guys he's probably going to see the most. And if you're Forge, you cannot let De Brienne create. You cannot let him be the reason that Valour gets some high-quality scoring opportunities. You neutralize him, you force someone else to step up. And Valour, at this point, has not proven to have the depth and the quality enough to be able to create outside of those 2 guys I mentioned. So control the flanks. That is key number 3 for Forge FC. That's it. There's nothing left. There's nothing left to say about this matchup. You are completely in the know. It all comes down to what happens on the pitch Friday night. Now remember, when you hear that final whistle, that's your cue. Picture it like a dog whistle. You hear that final whistle go, oh, I have to now go onto YouTube to the Forge FC channel to listen to the live match in review. I will be there to deliver it to you. And hopefully we can talk about another 3 points for Forge away from home. So until then, enjoy the match. We'll talk to you very soon.
Forge FC is prepared, and now you are informed. This has been Match Day Preview with Anthony Urciuoli on the Forge Audio Network. Subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.